God, he says, he gathered them together into a place called in the Hebrew tongue, Armageddon. Har-Mageddon is, in effect, idiomatic for the Mount Megiddo, which is a tell, very prominent tell. It's very conspicuous in history. That's become an idiom in our language to be sort of a final climactic battle as an idiom. We often forget it's a real place. This is going to actually happen at a particular time. If you go to the planet Earth and zero in on the Middle East, and you come to a place called Israel, up just south east of Haifa, there's a place called Megiddo. It's there, and it is on the west side of a valley, a very prominent valley, the valley of Jezreel. Across the valley is Nazareth. If you look across that valley in the hills, you see Nazareth. If you're in Nazareth, you can look across this valley and see, among other things, Megiddo and Gilboa and a lot of others. Now, this valley of Jezreel is the staging area for the real target, which is Jerusalem. If you read Zechariah and the other prophets, you realize that the real campaign here is against Jerusalem. Megiddo, in the valley of there by Megiddo, is to the Jerusalem what England was to the Normandy invasion. It's the collecting point, the launching point, if you will. Now, the scenario of what really happens, of course, is detailed in Daniel 11, the final verses of that chapter. It's triggered, the whole engagement seems to be triggered by the kings of the south. It's responded to this super leadership that are called, throughout that chapter, the king of the north. And he's overpowering the whole scene until he trembles because the kings of the east come in across the river Euphrates and into the action. And so now we know while these troops are going against Jerusalem, in accordance with Jesus' instruction, when the abomination of desolation is presented as a major political event, the faithful flee. Jesus says, then let them which be in Judea flee to the mountains. And they do. Among other places, they go to Petra, which is a Basra, a sheepfold, classic one. And it is there that Jesus makes his first appearance, apparently, because they will acknowledge their offense. Their prayer is detailed in Hosea 6. When you get to Isaiah 63, it says, who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Basra, that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength? I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save and in mercy. It's obviously Jesus Christ. And he's covered with red. When you see him in Revelation 19, his vesture is dipped in what? Blood. Whose blood? The blood of his enemies. So he redeems the faithful there and then goes to the Mount of Olives for his triumphal. His feet shall stand on that day upon the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem on the east, and the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof toward the east and toward the west. And very exciting stuff. You remember, now let's remind you that when we had all the world empires profiled in Daniel's dream, that rock, that stone cut without hands, wiped out those empires, all of them, and became a mountain, that is its own empire. And remember, it's not a local thing, it's global. The mountain filled the whole earth. I think even Israel today does not realize what the real war is and what's really going on here. It's all summarized for you in Psalm 2. And when you get home tonight, you might read Psalm 2 and take a scratch pad, write it out, and figure out who's saying what to whom. And you'll discover it's a trialogue between the members of the Trinity. And it opens with, why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh. The Lord shall have them in derision. Then shall he speak unto them in his wrath, and vex them in his sore displeasure. Yet have I set my king up on my holy hill of Zion. I will declare the decree. The Lord hath said unto me, thou art my son, this day have I begotten thee. Ask of me, and I will give thee the heathen for thine inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession. You notice this isn't a Jewish thing alone. That's where it's being ruled from. It's the heathen. It's the whole world. This is the Old Testament. Thou shalt break them with a rod of iron, and thou shalt dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel. Be wise now, therefore, O you kings. Be instructed, ye judges of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear, and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry and ye perish from the way, when his wrath is kindled but a little. Blessed are all they that put their trust in him.